It all begins with the final round of an enduro race. A boy in a wheelchair is watching the event on his cell phone. The narrator comments that these races have taken street racing to a whole new level. The crowd is very excited and cheering for each of the participants as the race begins. That's how this story starts. We move to a scene where we see a boy leaving his house and going to the library. He adjusts his clothes, puts on his gloves, and gets on his bicycle. Two boys are talking about going to the cyber cafe to play League of Legends, but his friend responds that they have an upcoming exam and it would be better to go another day. The boy on the bicycle passes by them and scares them with how fast he pedals. The young man sees a section of the road under construction in the distance and maneuvers his bicycle to jump over the work zone. Two lovers are kissing on some stairs, and the cyclist separates them by jumping over them, which scares them. He continues pedaling until he stops near a coast, where several students are gathered with some bullies. One of them asks if he stole the bicycle because high school students couldn't afford an aerofull carbon model bike. The bullies ask several questions, such as its weight, if it's faster than a racing bike, or if they can try it. We are introduced to the name of one of these bullies, TJ Kim from Mountain High Jr. Kim scolds his friends to stop begging for that bike and to get their own. One of them mentions that Kim had another bike recently and wonders why he would buy another one. His companion shouts that someone is coming down the hill. They look up and think that person is crazy, murmuring that going down that hill with a fixie is wanting to die, especially because it's so smooth. We see the boy put on a hood and stare at the descent. He was somewhat tired, but he gathered courage and pushed his bike to go down. This young man has memories of his parents, who demanded that their children be extremely well-mannered and competent, so they have high expectations for him. The boy tightens his grip on the handlebars. In his memories, his father scolds him for getting the best grades in school, but now his grades are dropping. He wonders how he will study if he continues like this, and more people criticize him, saying that he comes from a family of doctors and shouldn't hang out with them. His only reason to live is to study and make money. Someone like him can't hang out with normal people. The pressure of having high grades and always being demanded more by his parents bothers him a lot. He was losing control and quickly slid with his bike, leaving the tires hot. All the students wonder how the boy was able to slide without breaking, especially at the speed he was going. Kim mentions that he's just trying to show off with a trashy bike, and a boy named Junli asks his friend if that hooded person is the president of Sunny High Senior School. Minu responds that he has no idea. He doesn't care who the school president is, and he praises the boy for his slide. The next day, at Sunny High School, students were talking about not being able to play due to a lack of servers. Some were chatting about the latest episode of the popular series or why an actor looked so handsome. A girl named Mia was staring at a boy when she was suddenly interrupted by her friend. Her friend asks if she's studying for exams since she heard she's very busy with the student council. Mia answers that she is studying, and her friend asks if the council president is treating her well. Mia blushes and replies that he is, and her friend hugs her to inquire further, thinking that the president is harassing her, but Mia denies everything. The girl begins to criticize, saying that grades are important, but what he is doing is excessive. He dedicates his entire life to studying and seems to have no hobbies. She mentions that whenever someone talks to him, he simply ignores them, and she also says it must be stressful to work with someone like that. Mia reveals the name of our protagonist, Jay, and mentions that he's not like that. He's just not good at expressing himself, but he's actually responsible and sweet. Yuna, Mia's friend, asks if she likes him, but someone excitedly shouts as Minu enters the classroom. All the girls go crazy for him and approach to greet him, asking why he came. Disappointed, Yuna asks what Minu is doing in the classroom. He replies that he's not there to see her and asks her not to bother him. Mia quickly stops Yuna and tries to calm her down to prevent a fight, while Yuna shouts that nobody invited him to the classroom. We are introduced to Dom Ken, a boy who stares at Yuna. He is in love with her and thinks she looks beautiful when she's angry, fantasizing about her while she insults him. Minu mutters that he feels sorry for being associated with Yuna and that he has to pretend he doesn't know her, while she continues to insult him in the background. Jay is studying quietly and notices Minu. The latter greets him, but the protagonist ignores him. Jay comments that he's busy studying and if Minu has something to say, now is the time. Minu places his hand on the protagonist's book. He asks if he wants to join his team after seeing him ride a bike. Jay doesn't understand the situation, and Minu mentions that he saw him do the slide yesterday on the hill, and he thought it was awesome that he did it without breaking. He also reveals that his whole team was impressed by his descent. It was the first time they had met someone from their school who uses racing bikes, especially someone who is the president. His only reason for visiting the classroom is to ask him to join the team, but Jae ignores him. Minu scolds him, saying he can at least pretend to listen. Yuna looks at them confused and wonders how they know each other. Mia adds that it's strange and she's interested in knowing what they're talking about. Jae tells Minu that he's not interested and that he should stop interrupting and leave. Minu apologizes and leaves, mentioning that Jae's behavior irritates him. We see the protagonist reflecting on the question of whether he likes riding a bike. He recalls his childhood when he turned 13. And his uncle gave him the bike he currently uses. His uncle mentions that the bike has been his best friend since he became an athlete and he wishes for Jae to be the one who rides it now. He emphasizes the importance of studying, but sometimes it's good to take a break and enjoy nature or hobbies. He proposes that if Jae becomes good enough at riding, they could go biking together. After classes, Mia and Yuna leave together. Yuna says she's wasting her youth in such a strict school. Mia reminds her that final exams are coming up, and if she passes, she'll have a long vacation. Yuna confesses that she always imagined adolescence to be more romantic and memorable, but it's just too boring. Every day she goes to school, receives tutoring, goes home to sleep, and repeats the same routine the next day. Mia tries to cheer her up and tells her not to be so negative, but her friend is desperate for some entertainment. However, they promise each other to overcome reality together. Dong Kang shows up to ask Yuna out, but she gets scared and punches him in the stomach, shouting at him to stop harassing her. This only makes Dong Kang fall more in love with her, and he continues to insist that they go see a movie. Next, we see our protagonist looking out the window. He gathers his things to leave but notices Minu waiting at the entrance. Minu mentions that he made sure to come back so as not to disturb Jae while he studies. He approaches Jae and asks him to give the team a chance. If he doesn't want to join, he'll understand, but he asks him to at least do it for today. He explains that there's a guy who wants to challenge him to a race after seeing him yesterday on the hill. He clarifies that it will be at night since cycling competitions are held at that time. Jae refuses and tries to leave, but Minu stops him by talking about TJ Kim, who mocked the appearance of his bike. Minu confesses that it doesn't bother him if Jae doesn't show up. What really bothers him is when someone thinks that the characteristics of a bike are everything in a race. The two leave the school, and Minu comments that he would love to see Kim's face if he loses the race. The race will take place in Green Park, but it's up to Jae whether he wants to participate. During the night, several people started to gather, and some competitors practiced their maneuvers before the race. Minu was listening to music, sitting on a bench, when suddenly someone places a cold can on his face. He screams in fear and complains about how cold the can is. June hands him an energy drink, and he drinks it. June asks if they should keep waiting because he doesn't think Jae will show up. Minu replies that they should just wait, otherwise they can have practice sessions. June talks about Minu's obsession with Jae, but Minu asks him to lower his voice or someone might misunderstand everything. Minu reveals that he knows Jae has been practicing because of the maneuver he did on the hill. He thought the races would be more entertaining if Jae joined. At that moment, the thugs arrive, asking where Jae is. It was already too late to wait for him. The thugs believe Jae got scared of the races, and that's why he didn't want to participate. Minu proposes that if they are too anxious, they can have a warm-up round. Perhaps then Jae will get his desired rematch. This angers the thugs, but someone shouts that he's here. Everyone is impressed as they see Jae. They respect him because he's an important person at Sunny, but also because of his skill demonstrated on the hill. Minu taunts Kim because now he won't get his rematch. Most of the people present are excited to see what the protagonist is capable of. Kim approaches to shake hands and introduce himself, but Jae ignores him and walks past him. He approaches Minu and asks to start already because he's busy. June introduces himself and expresses happiness that now there are 3 from Sunny. The protagonist thanks him for being so kind. Minu is impressed that Jae is rude to him but friendly to June. The latter explains the rules of the race. It will be a 1 versus 1 competition where they will go around the entire park in a single lap. The first one to reach the finish line wins. June clarifies that as a precaution, they have placed assistants at each corner to make sure they follow the route and don't get lost. June tells Jae that his opponent is Kim, who is angry about Jae's rejection. The protagonist tells Minu not to bother him with the team matter after the race. June gives Jae his safety helmet. Minu observes Jae's bike and realizes that he removed the brakes to make it lighter. Everyone present cheers for Kim and his carbon fiber bike. He tells Jae that it won't be easy for him to win with such a trashy bike. June prepares his cell phone and attaches it to the helmet, informing both of them that they will be filmed until there's a winner. One of the thugs brings a nut, and when he drops it, it will be the signal to start pedaling. When they felt ready, the thug dropped the nut, it touched the ground, and thus the first race began. Kim had an advantage at the start since his bike is lighter. June follows them from behind to record them, commenting on everything as he films. In the middle of the race, TJ started boasting that the protagonist couldn't catch up, but he's surprised when Jay is doing it. To ensure his victory, Kim starts hitting some cones and leaves them as obstacles for Jay. Quickly, the protagonist dodges them by maneuvering around the cones. June warns him that he's about to collide with a car. Jay gets a little scared but manages to avoid it by jumping with his bike, which gives him more momentum that he can take advantage of, leaving Kim and June impressed. They reach the first crossing of the race. June shouts at TJ to stop doing those stupid things as he could hurt someone. Kim apologizes, but deep down, he thinks the protagonist is crazy for avoiding a car like that. June thinks that Jay has more experience than he appears to have. Doing a 360 on a bike at such a short distance is very challenging. The protagonist leans forward and manages to pass Kim, telling him that he will finish this race once and for all. TJ realizes that there's a tight curve ahead, and the speed at which he's going benefits him to overtake Jay. Jay increases his speed even more and leans to drift with the bike, leaving Kim and June astonished by his skills. June admits that he never imagined the protagonist would drift to take a curve, and wonders how Jay learned to ride like that. He also mentions that Jay handles that old bike as if it were an extension of his own body. Kim gets frustrated as he realizes he can't catch up to Jay and realizes that the latter is mocking him, even saying that now he will be watching his rear for the rest of the race. This angers TJ, who leans forward to go faster, shouting that he will catch up. Jay tells him that he has many things to study and announces that he will finish the race in 4 minutes. Kim exclaims for him to stop being so conceited just because he's in the lead. June worries about their competitiveness since someone could get hurt if they keep escalating the challenge and prays that everything goes well. Jay realizes that TJ is catching up to him, and they descend a hill at high speed, both increasing the speed of their bikes. June gets scared and yells at them to stop or they'll kill themselves because there's a gate in front of them at the end of the descent. Jay reacts after June's last shout. He slides and extends his foot to hit the gate and continue pedaling on the original path. On the contrary, Kim, despite braking, couldn't control his speed. He forced the bike too hard in the middle of the descent, and it broke. TJ goes flying and crashes hard into the gate. June approaches to see if he's okay, while Jay stops for a moment, telling him he's a loser, and continues pedaling towards the finish line. We see Kim bleeding from his forehead. June asks if he's okay, but TJ feels frustrated for losing in that way. Back at the plaza, everyone was playing on their phones until someone alerted them that they were getting closer. Minu is surprised that they're already arriving quickly and complains because they interrupted his game. Jay crosses the finish line, and the others wonder where TJ is. The thugs start to worry about this. Minu mentions that finally someone put Kim in his place because he has always told him that the bike doesn't matter, it's the rider. Most people believe that TJ would win, and they feel annoyed and some disappointed that it was the protagonist who reached the finish line. Jay takes off his helmet and throws it at Minu, reminding him not to bother him with any more races. The others watch as the protagonist walks away, concluding that he's too tough with them. Minu realizes that June is coming with TJ on his shoulders. Everyone gathers to check on Kim, and someone goes to get first aid. TJ angrily shouts for Jay to come back and talk to him now. Later, we see the protagonist returning home. He's relieved that his mother isn't there due to her night shift, but he's interrupted by K-Joe, his brother, who asks where he's been and scolds him for using the bike. He says Jay should prioritize studying, otherwise, he will never get into a good university. Kay reminds him that he has an entrance exam next year and shouldn't be riding a bike, especially late at night, emphasizing that he needs to mature. Suddenly, the TV announces that a program called Kitty Time is about to start, so Kay rushes to the living room to watch it but ends up hurting himself by hitting the door frame while running. He rolls on the floor and cries in pain until he sees the cats on the screen, and his pain goes away. Jay goes to his room, throws his clothes in the hamper, and takes a shower while looking at himself in the mirror, remembering the whole race. He wipes away the reflection, looking at himself. He thinks it's strange, the feeling he's experiencing. He has never felt this way before. The next day, Jay checks his bike and realizes that the wheel is damaged from the high-speed drifts. Kay leaves the house and asks if something is wrong with the bike and whether he plans to go to school with it again. The protagonist replies affirmatively, and Kay calls him a bike maniac, mentioning that no one would waste their energy going to school on a bike. He believes it's their obligation to study and arrive fresh, not waste their energy pedaling. Jay ignores him and leaves. We transition to a scene with Mia boarding a crowded bus. She almost missed the bus, but there's traffic, and she might be late. The students on board complain about why there are so many cars at that hour. One of them suggests using a bike to go back home or to school. Mia doesn't understand what they're talking about and looks out the window, seeing the protagonist passing by. She blushes and is surprised to see him going to school on a bike, falling even more in love with him. The boys wondered how it's possible for someone on a bike to be much faster than a bus. One of them suggests that maybe they should take theirs too, as it's just collecting dust in the garage. A boy complains about the traffic, and the driver asks if he wants to hit the cars to get through. The boy looks out the window and sees Jay passing by, getting excited about wanting a bike too. As the protagonist continues on his way, he realizes that someone is following him and looks to his side. It's an old man. The old man greets him with a smile. When Jay looks at him more closely, he realizes it's his principal. The principal comments that this is how he likes to see student presidents, full of energy early in the morning. Jay greets him and asks if he also rides his bike to school. The principal answers yes, everyone should. He also mentions that it's better to be cautious when riding and not go too fast, as cyclists are not welcome on sidewalks. Not even cycle lanes are safe. Both the principal and our protagonist start pedaling fast to arrive early at school. Later, we see a teacher punishing his students until he hears the sound of a skateboard approaching. It's Howering Lee, a sophomore. He hums a song and greets the teacher, giving him a peace sign. But this annoys the teacher, who grabs him by his shirt and lifts him up, asking what happened to his hair and where his label and backpack are. Lee says he left them at school because he doesn't want to keep studying. The teacher was about to do something serious until the principal arrived. The principal asks why there's so much noise so early in the morning, and the teacher responds that he was enforcing the dress code. The principal looks at the punished students, who are the most good-looking ones there, and tells them to make sure not to ruin their school image and to be more careful next time, letting them go to class. The boys happily run away from the teacher. Lee notices some attractive girls and wonders when there have been such sexy girls at school. He approaches them, greeting and asking if he can eat lunch with them. The girls accept and even invite him to join them at someone's house. The teacher laughs at Lee's behavior, mentioning that he's in his youth, but the teacher finds him like a delinquent because of his dyed hair. He informs the principal that there will be an assembly, but the principal responds that he won't do it and will only send a text to everyone. In classroom 2-1, we see bored students asking when the school anniversary will be. Yuna looks at her phone, receiving a message from the principal, who wishes them all good luck. She wanted to ask something to Mia but realizes that her friend is staring at Jay. Mia wonders why Jay rode his bike. Mia realizes that her friend is in love with the protagonist. Suddenly, they are interrupted by Dong Kang's shout. An annoyed Yuna throws a book at his face, complaining that he shouldn't shout from behind like that. The boy receives the book on his forehead, leaving him bleeding. He murmurs that it's probably his way of expressing that he likes her and believes that his heart is open to him. We see Jay studying, and Minu passes by with some girls. They talk about a bike race that was uploaded to YouTube yesterday. Jay glances at them until Minu calls him. Minu comments that he saw Jun's video and congratulates him on beating TJ. The girls start asking Minu why he knows the president. It's weird. We see the daily activities of everyone at school, in the middle of a class, during lunch, etc. Jay is studying, and he notices that Mia is looking at him. Mia realizes it and quickly turns away, completely blushing. After school, everyone leaves the school. Dong Kang looks at the protagonist with his bike and approaches him, asking if he can ride it for a few seconds. Jay ignores him and leaves. Kang overhears Mia and Yuna talking, so he approaches them to accompany them. He asks if he doesn't look handsome today, but Yuna yells at him and insults him, saying that he looks greasy from sleeping in class all day. Kang tells her not to pretend that she's not in love with him. Out of anger, Yuna kicks his leg hard, asking him to shut up. We go back to the protagonist, who rides his bike fast until the wheel bursts. At that moment, TJ appears, asking if he doesn't want him to fix that piece of junk for him. He mentions that he almost didn't recognize him with those glasses, and he is accompanied by his thugs. Kang walks along the street fantasizing about Yuna. He looks into the distance and sees our protagonist with TJ and his group. Kim tells him that he was very upset after losing the race and couldn't sleep because of the wound on his forehead. Jay asks who he is. This angers TJ, who kicks the bike and shouts that he shouldn't think he's so great just because he beat him once. Without hesitation, Jay punches him in the face. Kim's companions get scared, thinking the protagonist is crazy for hitting him and believing that his ego has gone to his head because he won. Jay and TJ fight, but the protagonist ends up losing. Kim tells him that he won't be able to go to school tomorrow with his face ruined and asks if he remembers now. Jay replies that he doesn't know and doesn't care, so he asks him to leave already. TJ gets even more upset and was about to hit him, but Kang stops the fight. Kim asks who he is. Kang asks if they think they're tough guys just because there are 3 of them against Jae, so to make it fair, he'll join. He throws his bag to the ground and cracks his knuckles. TJ was about to hit him, but one of his friends stops him, telling him they should run away because Kang is too dangerous. The boy whispers in Kim's ear, and he gets scared when he finds out who Kang is. He tells both of them that he can't stand the sunny middle school people and warns the protagonist that he was lucky someone showed up to help him. Then he leaves. Kang yells at them that it's not fun when they run away. He wanted to fight to get rid of boredom. Kang thinks they ran away as soon as he appeared, probably because of his power. He approaches the protagonist, extending his hand and asking if he's okay. Jae doesn't accept his help and tells him he's fine and better off leaving. Kang wonders why everyone is treating him like they don't like him. We see Minu with the girls on the street. They were going to the karaoke to hang out until they encounter TJ. The latter tells Minu that if it weren't for him being rich, he wouldn't have those women by his side. Minu sees Jae and Kang in the distance. He cancels the karaoke with the girls and runs towards the protagonist. The girls complain about him canceling so suddenly. Kang tells Jae that his bike doesn't have wheels and asks if he can walk home with those injuries, offering to help him get back. Minu yells at both of them, asking what happened and if Jae got into a fight. Kang explains that he intervened in the fight, and they all ran away. Minu deduces that's why TJ came with people who weren't from their school. Jae tells them to leave him alone. Minu apologizes for getting him into such trouble, but Jae reminds him not to mention it again in their group. Minu agrees and tries to take him to the pharmacy to treat his injuries, but Jae refuses everything, ignoring the scolding from Minu and Kang who wanted to help him. The two start shouting at each other, and Kang forcefully knocks him out with a neck chop, scaring Minu. He calms him down, saying it was gentle, and his punches aren't as strong as Yuna's. Minu asks why he did it if Jae is injured. Kang responds that they were probably going to fight all day, so he decided to do something. He mentions that he'll take Jae, and Minu should take care of the bike. Minu asks if he knows how to get to the protagonist's house, but Kang tells him he doesn't. They stop at a pharmacy, and Minu returns with a bag of medication. Kay was checking his phone and realizes it's getting late. He notices Minu and Kang in an alley, mistaking them for bullies, and sees someone passed out on the ground. He recognizes him and shouts his name. Both of them look at Kay and approach him. Immediately, Kay surrenders, thinking they were going to hit him for drawing attention. Kay ignores them and tells them he doesn't know Jae and leaves. However, both Minu and Kang realize that their faces and behavior are similar and suspect they are brothers. They start chasing him to help carry Jae, stop him, and explain everything. Kay is relieved because he thought they were going to hit him. Both of them scold him for trying to leave his own brother like that, and Kay responds that he has to take care of himself. Kang murmurs that he's even more selfish than his brother, and Minu tells him that maybe it runs in the family. Kay begins to complain about Jae, believing he only gets into fights. But he is surprised that Jae has found real friends, calling the 3 of them pathetic. Minu and Kang demand explanations for why they treat Jae that way, but they are ignored. Back at home, Minu and Kang finish treating Jae's wounds. Kay observes them from a distance and wonders if they really are from Sunny Middle School. Minu asks why he always wears a band-aid under his nose and takes it off. He realizes who he really is and gets scared. He tries to calm him down, but Kang ignores him and puts the band-aid back on. The two start arguing about never revealing what happened with Jae. Minu asks Kay why there's no one at home, and he responds that their parents are rarely there due to work. They both start going through the protagonist's things. Minu asks why they are looking at them, and Kay tells them they may have lied and aren't his friends. He finds it impossible for his brother to have friends. Minu is annoyed by his attitude, but Kang catches his attention, saying that in a photo, Jae's bike is visible. They both look at the photo of Jae with his uncle, confusing the protagonist with Kay. However, the latter clarifies that it's Jae when he was little. They think something may have happened in the family that made them distant, as the photo shows the protagonist looking very friendly and happy, unlike his current self. Minu looks closely at the photo. He had already confirmed that Jae has been riding the bike since he was little, but now he finds it strange that he appeared in the race because that day he noticed in his eyes that he didn't have the intention to participate in the race for real. Kang asks him what he's murmuring, but when he looks closer, he realizes that he looks a lot like Yuna. He thinks that it's probably the effects of being single for a long time, but in reality, everyone at school, including Jae, knows that Minu and Yuna are twin siblings, but Kang doesn't. Minu finds the uncle familiar, and suddenly, Jae wakes up and shouts at them to leave the photo where it belongs. He asks what they're doing in his house, and Kang asks if he's feeling better from his face, but Jae ignores them and forcefully takes the photo from them. Both Minu and Kang start teasing him and show him a mirror so he can see his face, mentioning that it shouldn't be so bad since they brought him home and are taking care of him. Jay removes all the bandages and scares the duo. Then he explains that he's not in the mood to argue and is very tired, so he asks them to leave. Kang touches his shoulder and scolds him to drop that attitude. Then he joins Minu, and they plan to go through all the protagonist's things. They want to find the Pandora's box and see what nude photos of girls he's hiding in his desk. They are curious about his type of woman. Jay tells them not to touch his computer. Minu mocks him, saying he doesn't have any adult videos. However, Kang explains that even a boring nerd like Jay watches those videos from time to time. They check all his videos, but they are disappointed because they are only class videos. Dom comments that he will show Jay a dark path to a new world, so he should be happy to know him. Minu is excited to know what that path is, unlike Jay, who keeps asking them to leave his computer alone. Kay goes to the protagonist's room to let him know he's going to his private lessons. Kang downloads one of those videos and plays it. At that moment, Kay enters and sees them. The four of them are amazed by the video and watch it until the end. After that, Minu and Kang leave. Kay accompanies them. The protagonist was going to delete the video, but starts hesitating. He checks that no one is around and watches the video again. At that moment, Kay enters the room to tell him something about their mother, but both of them are hypnotized by the screen. Minu mentions that the video was really good, and Kang asks if he wants to know the site. They shake hands and agree to send each other messages to share things. They part ways as Dom Kang works part-time at night. Minu receives a call and answers it. He is informed about an emergency meeting at night, so they ask Minu to alert everyone to attend, including TJ and his group. Around 10 p.m., everyone gathers and complains about why the meeting was organized so suddenly. TJ arrives and tells everyone that if they have a problem with Minu, they should tell him face to face instead of talking behind his back. One of them asks if something happened between them since Minu specifically asked for TJ and his group to attend. June talks about the team and how they owe everything to Minu for founding it and helping them practice cycling, so it's their obligation to attend. One person shouts that Minu has arrived. We see the boy quite angry, even taking off his ring as he walks towards TJ. Everyone wonders what is happening, and they start asking him if he's okay because they know something bad is about to happen. Minu suddenly punches Kim without warning, knocking him down. TJ tries to get up to defend himself, but everyone stops him and asks him to calm down. June approaches her friend and asks why he did that. One of TJ's teammates exclaims that Minu should talk to them if something is wrong and not resort to violence. Minu scolds Kim, telling him to stop tarnishing the reputation of the Zephyrus team, and asks him to leave the group. Everyone is shocked by this comment and wonders if he's really expelling him. Most of them wonder what TJ did to anger Minu like that. Kim doesn't know what he's talking about, and Minu responds that he shouldn't play dumb. He doesn't want losers on his team who hit others just because they don't like losing. TJ asks if it's about Jay, clarifying that he started the fight and only defended himself. He also asks Minu to leave the team. The majority of the group is angry with Minu for his behavior, and Kim takes the opportunity to ask them to say everything to his face. Everyone mentions their reasons. They didn't like the sudden meetings without prior notice, what he did to Jay, and trying to expel someone without taking a vote. One of them suspects that it might have been our protagonist who started the whole fight. The situation becomes more tense when one of them mentions that the reason Minu made them attend was to have an excuse to officially expel TJ. Kim smiles mockingly and points out that the majority would rather be with him, reminding everyone that Minu has a leg injury and hasn't been able to ride a bike. The teammates suggest that he should start a club at school. With all the money his dad has, it shouldn't be a problem to found another group. June stops the discussion and demands that they vote before making a decision. However, Minu interrupts, challenging TJ to a Zephyrus-style race. The loser leaves, and the winner stays. Kim accepts but asks if Minu can pedal with his injured leg. Minu replies that he can beat him even with just one leg. TJ suggests a 3-on-3 race so that there are no hard feelings within the group because of a friend. Minu accepts the challenge but asks for a 1-on-3 race. June stops him and decides to join the bet, reminding his friend that even for him, winning against 3 with a bad leg is too much. TJ gets excited because it seems like it will be a race between Sunny and Mountain Secondary School. Kim looks at everyone present and asks if anyone wants to help Sunny since they are missing one person. Some members who are also from the same school refuse to join the bet. They want to keep their place in Zephyrus. Minu tells everyone that there's no need for a third person to make it quick. It will be a 2-on-3 race, and both teams look at each other challengingly. We move to another scene where we see a boy making a wish to have a proportional physique. His wish comes true, and he becomes attractive to girls, who look at him in awe and wish to have him as their partner. They all approach him at the same time, asking if he's single. The boy doesn't miss the opportunity and asks for one girl's number. The girl hugs the boy, and they all start suffocating him with their breasts. Suddenly, he wakes up from his dream when a classmate puts a carton of milk on his desk. It's Shinyoung, who asks what he was dreaming about because he looked very happy, and the boy feels disappointed that it was just a dream. He tells her what he was dreaming about and thanks her for the milk, calling her by her nickname Seaweed, which makes her sad. He drinks the milk, and one of his friends appears out of nowhere, hugging him and almost choking him. His friend wants to go to the cafeteria to get some snacks, and the boy gets angry at being interrupted. His friend teases him about not being able to finish the milk and kisses him on the head. Shinyoung blushes at this and starts recording them with her phone. In the background, Jun and Minu are present. Jun asks what Minu will do now, but his companion replies that he will just win and kick TJ's whole team out. Jun asks if Minu's injured leg has healed. Minu says the doctor recommended cycling to recover, but Jun emphasizes that they will need more than that to win against TJ's team. He mentions that the race is a relay, and if there are only 2 people, they will have a significant disadvantage against TJ's team. If Minu's leg were really fine, he wouldn't be so worried, Jun says. Then an idea comes to him, and he looks at Minu, asking if Jay could help them win since all the trouble started because he won the race. Minu denies it, saying he doesn't want help from a nerd and doesn't want him to get involved in the group's affairs. Jun tries to encourage him, saying that everything will be fine and that it's impossible for the mountain secondary school to beat them. We see the protagonist drawing his bike in his notebook when he notices someone leaving a bag of band-aids next to him. He looks up and sees Mia. She mentions that they're for his cuts on the face, but Jay clarifies that he didn't ask her to bring him something like that. Yuna pounds the table and reprimands him for his behavior, shouting that when a girl shows interest, he should say thank you. She tells the story of how Mia got worried when she saw the wounds and ran to the pharmacy to get the band-aids. Nervously, Mia covers Yuna's mouth, and Dom Kang appears, patting the protagonist on the back. He asks if Jay slept well last night or stayed up watching the video. He notices that Jay looks very tired, and Yuna wonders since when they know each other. Kang reveals that they became close in front of a computer screen, laughing about it. Yuna looks at her friend and asks if she knows what he's talking about, but Mia doesn't know either and suggests that they might have been playing. A boy enters the classroom, calling the protagonist's name, and informs him that someone from the 3rd year wants to see him in the hallway. Kang glances at Jay sarcastically for becoming popular, then approaches Yuna and asks if they don't want to join as well. But she reacts poorly and puts him in a lock, throwing him to the ground. In the hallway, 2 girls talk about a date between 2 classmates. Jun notices them and looks at them. The girls greet him and say he's handsome. Jun returns the greeting and overhears them saying that he's gay since no one has seen him with a girl. But deep down, Jun feels embarrassed because he knows that's not true. Jay introduces himself, and the 2 face each other. Jun looks at the wounds and thinks that those bruises are the consequences of Minu and TJ's bet, but he gets confused when Jay doesn't seem to recognize him. He realizes that Jay has a problem with facial recognition and explains who he is for 5 minutes. Jay finally remembers, and Jun comments that he should pay more attention when meeting people, then asks him a favor. He tells him everything that happened last night between Minu and TJ because of the beating TJ gave him. Minu didn't want Jay to get involved in the race, but he still asks for his help as the missing 3rd member in the bet. The protagonist refuses and tells him he doesn't want to do anything with their team anymore. Jun explains that he has to help them because things ended unfairly, and if Minu loses, he will be expelled. Jay asks why he should care about someone like him and walks away. Jun stops him to tell him the time and place of the race. He also emphasizes that if Jay changes his mind, he should attend. Then he apologizes to the protagonist for interrupting his rest time. It was now time for the race. Everyone was gathered and nervous about the bet, discussing who might be the winner. Meanwhile, Jun prepares his shoes before starting. Minu announces that it's time, and Jun anxiously looks at the clock. It's past 8 p.m., and the protagonist hasn't shown up, so he assumes that Jay won't come. He puts on his helmet, and everyone places their bikes in position. Most of the spectators are nervous because it will be an intense race due to Minu and TJ's competitiveness. Jun looks at TJ's bike and realizes that he has the brakes on. He deduces that he will use them on the hill to avoid another accident. He also notices that TJ changed the front wheel to a carbon one. Kim mocks Minu, saying that he hasn't seen him on a bike for a long time. He also reminds him not to try too hard or he'll lose his other leg. The race supervisor was about to explain the rules of the event when a voice interrupts him. Everyone is surprised and turns to see a girl arriving on a motorcycle. She's glad she made it just in time. She's introducing herself as Harry Lee. She explains that she heard about the nighttime race and wanted to be present. The group, except for Minu and June, blushes and becomes infatuated with Harry. Harry announces that she will be live streaming the entire race on her internet channel, Paprika TV, and asks for permission to record them. Minu agrees and expresses gratitude for having someone like her filming them. TJ gets excited and boasts that it's the perfect opportunity to humiliate Minu on the internet. Harry puts on her headphones and connects to a public network, greeting the camera and asking the chat if everything looks good. Some boys who are on an iPad get excited that Paprika TV has started broadcasting and sit down to watch it. The supervisor explains the rules of the relay race. It will be like a regular relay race, where they pass a baton to the next runner. He clarifies that instead of batons, they will use lead bracelets and demonstrates how they will wear them. The other runners take their positions at the designated spots, and the first one to bring back the bracelet will be the winner. To make sure everything in the race goes well, the supervisor asks Minu if he can run since the loser will be expelled. Minu is unsure what he means, and the supervisor comments that it's 2 against 3, clearly disadvantaged in terms of strength and stamina. Minu adds that he's not worried, as it doesn't matter if they compete 2 against 3 or 2 against 4, he will win. However, June exhales anxiously at his friend's excessive confidence. The supervisor warns that if that's their decision, the race can begin, and no one can claim it was unfair. Before starting, he hands the bracelets to the first runners. Minu mockingly asks TJ not to crack his head open again, but TJ challenges him to go down the hill with his one good leg. Harry realizes they are about to start and notifies the competitors that she will prepare to film. Kim is determined to beat Minu to bring down his ego. The supervisor instructs the other runners to go to their positions quickly. The first runner for the mountain team would be Hyungmin Lee, a second-year student. Minu decides to send June to face him. Minu explains that the first part of the track has many curves, so he's at a disadvantage with Hyungmin's road bike model. June accepts but asks worriedly if he can handle the other 2 parts alone. Minu replies that he's not sure if TJ will be the second or third runner, but he wants to defeat him himself. June puts on the bracelet and asks his friend not to overexert himself. Both riders position themselves with their bikes at the starting line. The crowd starts cheering for them, and one person is nervous and wants to watch the race through the live stream. Harry attaches her phone to her helmet and announces that everything is ready. The supervisor explains that the race will start as last time. When the nut touches the ground, the duel begins. The 2 riders gaze attentively at the nut, and the supervisor drops it, the impact sound echoing. As soon as it hits, June and Hyungmin accelerate with all their might. They are neck and neck, and Harry follows them on her motorcycle, explaining the race details to her audience, emphasizing that the blue team is Mountain and the red team is Sunny. Hyungmin manages to pull ahead. The onlookers at the plaza watch the race through the live stream, increasing the number of spectators. Hyungmin looks back and asks if that's all June has. They reach the first cross as Minu mentioned, giving him the advantage. However, June manages to stay close behind, trying to minimize the distance between them. Hyungmin realizes June's plan and pedals faster, breaking a safety mechanism on his bike to accelerate. Despite that, he fails to distance himself from June, who is still right behind him. Hyungmin starts feeling intense pressure on his chest, noticing that the faster he goes, the more strained he feels. He realizes that June tricked him by using drafting. June uses Hyungmin as a shield to minimize wind resistance and ride at the same speed without exerting as much effort. Harry notices this technique and makes a face of surprise, as she didn't expect cycling techniques to be used in a high school race. The spectators praise what June did to level the playing field, although it means he won't be able to overtake Hyungmin. Hyungmin regrets expending all his strength to try to distance himself from June as he sees a hill in the distance. At that moment, June manages to pass him, thanking him for his help in playing the role of the shield. June relies solely on his muscle power and uses the handlebars of his bike to make the rear wheel heavier. This way, June manages to climb the hill more easily and gains a significant distance advantage over Hyungmin. Harry comments on everything happening to the audience with a sense of astonishment, as she didn't expect June to gain such an advantage quickly on an uphill climb. Minu and the other runner hear that they are getting close. Minu mentions to the other runner to be prepared to take his time catching up. Jimwon Kim, a second-year student, responds that they don't know who is in the lead. Minu mocks him, asking if he really thinks Hyungmin will be able to beat Jun. Jun finishes climbing the hill, looks at Minu, and they share smiles. Quickly, he removes the lead bracelet and passes it to his teammate, wishing him luck. Minu thanks him and accelerates with all his strength to gain the biggest advantage possible. The supervisor, who was watching the live stream from a bench, assumes TJ's defeat if Minu manages to maintain that lead. Harry follows Minu and comments that he is pushing himself hard to be fast, so much so that he's already about to finish the second part of the race. The crowd laughs at the beating Mountain is taking. One of them mentions that it's normal since Minu and Jun take races seriously. We see Jun resting and drinking an energy drink, praying that Minu doesn't get hurt while finishing the race. He remembers the incident they had when Minu fell off his bike in a race. He scraped his leg while going too fast, while the other rider injured his arm. Someone arrives, and Jun looks up to receive them. We see Minu riding at a very high speed, looking quite angry, reminding himself that he can't lose. He doesn't want Jun to be expelled because of him. As he pedals, he makes a wrong movement due to not being fully recovered and starts experiencing a sharp pain in the same leg as the previous incident. TJ nervously bites his nails in his position, waiting anxiously for his teammates to arrive. Two boys passing by comment to Kim that he's going to lose. The advantage Sunny took was too significant. TJ scolds them, asking if they're happy about it. One of them informs that Minu is close, and he passes by Kim, and they look at each other. The boys are surprised by Minu's speed despite not being fully recovered. TJ gets annoyed and exclaims why they're taking so long. Jimwon is barely arriving, looking extremely tired. We switch to a scene with a red-haired boy taking a shower. He listens to the live stream of the race between Mountain and Sunny. He grabs his phone and declares the race over, as he believes it's impossible for Mountain to win. He smiles at the screen and gets excited while thinking about Minu, continuing to pedal fast, enduring the pain as best he can. In the middle of the track, a cat crossed his path. He braked with all his might, causing his leg to hurt even more. At that moment, he realized that the bone in his leg had broken. He closed his eyes and cursed everything. He had given up, losing control of his bike due to his injured leg. He fell off the bike, crashing abruptly to the ground. Harry was startled to see him fall at such speed, and the audience became concerned, wondering why he fell when he was doing well. Jun overheard the people in the plaza and panicked upon learning that Minu had fallen. Harry cut the live stream, disappointing the audience. The supervisor whispered if this is really how it will all end for Sunny. TJ pedaled with all his might and saw Minu's accident in the distance. He passed by him and started laughing, celebrating that he had already won thanks to his luck. Minu, lying on the ground, looked at Harry with blurry vision. She asked if he could stand up, but he didn't answer. He had no motivation until he noticed someone next to him. He turned to see who it was. Jay had arrived at the race. He asked Minu why he was still on the ground. It wasn't over yet. Minu struggled to get up, telling him not to look at him like that and leave. Our protagonist took the lead bracelet and put it on. Harry looked at them confused, and they showed that Jay had left a note at his house informing them that he had sent his bike to be repaired. Kay read it and was disappointed that Minu still insisted on using the bike. Jay explained that he already heard the rules and the route from Jun. Minu tried to stop him, but Jay clarified that he wasn't doing it for the team, just to get back at Mountain for their earlier fight. Minu smiled and threw his helmet to Jay, having faith in him and asking him to teach them a lesson. Jay caught the helmet and smelled it, complaining about the odor. Minu yelled at him not to be delicate and to join the race quickly. Harry felt relieved for Minu's condition. She noticed Jay's bike and recognized it instantly. TJ celebrated his victory. His perfect moment to shut Minu up and bring down his ego had arrived. He boasted that Minu should never have challenged him with his injured leg, and now the race was boring because he was alone. Minu told Kim that there was a monster behind him, so he should be careful. TJ turned around, and Jay was about to catch up. Kim got scared seeing him, wondering where he came from. TJ leaned forward to pedal with all his strength, complaining that Sunny never mentioned that Jay would be there. He tried to calm down, but Jay was getting closer, comparing him to a hunting animal. At that moment, he remembered that the last part of the track was downhill, where he had previously had an accident. Before the descent, there was a curve. He concluded that Jay would be crazy to try to navigate the curve and the downhill without brakes. TJ's only hope was to handle the curve without losing speed and then brake on the downhill. Otherwise, Jay would leave him behind. Both of them reached the curve. Kim didn't brake, but his mind betrayed him, remembering when he had the accident. Due to nerves and fear of getting hurt, he braked, watching the protagonist take the curve without brakes and deeming him insane. Jay gained the advantage and started skidding. TJ observed his technique attentively and realized that he didn't want to skid. He was going to attempt a 180-degree turn while skidding. The protagonist focused and successfully executed the turn. Kim yelled at him that no one would ever attempt something like that. Jay braked throughout the curve and positioned himself in front of TJ. The latter exclaimed that he should get out of the way, or they could both die. Desperate, Kim shouted at him to move, but Jay ignored him. He quickly used the brakes and stopped just in front of him. Both of them were face to face. TJ nervously asked if he had gone crazy. The protagonist reminded him that he had kicked his bike before, but TJ seemed not to remember. Jay proposed a bet to determine who was faster. Kim, extremely angry, accepted and clarified that the skid trick wouldn't work again. So, the protagonist said seriously that the race would be decided in a straight line, and the first to reach the finish line would be the winner. He mockingly underestimated TJ, saying he wanted to see how fast his expensive carbon bike really was. He stated that if his lightweight bike lost to his piece of garbage, then it wouldn't be the bike's fault, but TJ's. TJ accepted the bet without hesitation, and they both descended the downhill, reaching the straight track. They both prepared themselves and accelerated at the same time. Kim had the advantage at first, but Jay managed to surpass him. TJ wouldn't let himself be defeated so easily. In the plaza, Minu and June had just arrived. Everyone asked about their well-being, except for a bespectacled boy who was disappointed by that ending. Minu apologized for ruining the race, realizing that his leg was not fully recovered. June mentioned that he had warned him not to overexert himself, and Minu, feeling remorseful, apologized to him. Harry mentioned that Minu was very lucky not to be injured in the fall at that speed. It could have ended much worse. Hyungmin and Jimwon laughed in Minu's face. One person in the audience noticed that someone was following TJ, capturing everyone's attention. They looked into the distance and saw the red bracelet. They were confused because no one knew there was a third member on the Sunny team. Kim was too far behind to catch up with the protagonist, and he wondered why his bike was losing to Jay's. The latter crossed the finish line. All the boys looked amazed at the protagonist. The Sunny team won. Was he the president of Sunny School? What was he doing there all of a sudden? Wasn't he that unfriendly guy from before? There were many questions from the audience who looked at Jay. Hyungmin and Jimwon angrily exclaimed that it was cheating. The protagonist looked at TJ, tired and silently suffering his defeat. Jay reminded Kim of the bet and insulted him, saying he was garbage for not winning with a better bike. He suggested that Kim should practice basic pedaling before challenging him again. Of course, TJ wasn't going to stay behind and got off his bike. He wanted to fight the protagonist, but the supervisor shouted at him to stop. The boys in the background questioned whether the race was too complicated. Sunny had won, but Jay wasn't part of the team for the victory to count. The supervisor coldly mentioned that in this race, no one else could join Sunny because they had agreed before the race that it would be 2 against 3. He also mentioned that no one who isn't part of the team can interfere, so Jay's participation is unfair, as stated by Minu himself. He reminded them in detail of the terms before the race, such as the absence of a runner and the disadvantage they would have. He even mentioned Minu's comment about winning even if it were 2 against 4. For him, the race for Sunny ended the moment Minu fell off his bike. Minu made a mocking gesture and called him stupid for analyzing something he already knew. Minu accepted the defeat and, to avoid complicating things further, took off the team emblem. Everyone looked at him in surprise at his decision, and the emblem fell to the ground. Hyungmin and Jimwon smiled mockingly. Everything fell silent, and Minu commented that Jay should take good care of his team now that there would be no more complaints. June hugged him to cheer him up, and they walked away. Minu apologized, feeling guilty for falling off the bike, but June cheerfully replied that it was okay. He joined the team because of Minu in the first place. That both of them are not on that team doesn't mean they will quit racing. He mentions that from now on, with this opportunity, they can compete on their own. Jay calls Minu to throw him his helmet, and Minu catches it and thanks him for competing on their behalf. The protagonist remains silent, puts on his hood, and leaves. Minu is surprised because he expected some words of relief, but he's still the same jerk. Harry watches the protagonist from afar, glad to know that someone inherited that bike, and smiles because of it. Minu complains about the pain in his leg, and June, concerned, asks if he will be able to make it back home. But Minu replies that he lives nearby, and he asks June to stop treating him like a baby and go home. On his part, Jay meets his brother, who scolds him for riding his bike and tells him to study or he'll ruin his university entrance exam. Hyungmin and Jimwon suggest celebrating their victory, and the expulsion of the Sunny students with hamburgers and drinks. TJ sits on a bench, reflecting on his defeat. They ask him if he'll come, but he keeps remembering the protagonist's bet. He doesn't feel victorious about the race, He feels humiliated. Someone calls him a venomous snake. TJ gets up annoyed and asks who's bothering him. We're introduced to Vinnie Hong from Gun Secondary School. Vinnie asks him if he's going to hit him. Kim's group gets nervous with Hong's presence. TJ greets him, somewhat scared, while Hyungmin and Jimwon regret not leaving. Vinnie asks if he's not welcome. Then he explains that he watched the live stream on the internet, and he found it interesting that Minu's leg had improved and he's back in the races. Jimwon and Hyungmin affirm that Minu's leg is better, but nonetheless, the Sunny team was expelled from the team for losing the race. Vinnie interrogates them to find out if that's why they're so uncomfortable with his presence, but they deny it, scared. Hong humiliates them, saying that their team doesn't know how to race. TJ didn't expect him to be here. He thought Hong had left the team after the incident. Vinnie murmurs that Minu is very active in the races as before, so he will break his other leg to make sure he won't come back again, leaving Kim's group perplexed. Vinnie informs them that if Minu is no longer on the team, then he will also leave. TJ thinks that he might be planning something with that decision. We switch to a scene with Minu arriving at his house, complaining about his defeat because of his leg. At that moment, his parents arrive. They exchange glances, and Minu greets them. His father approaches, asking if something's wrong, and scolds him for not studying at home. The mother tries to calm him down, saying it's just teenage stuff. She notices the cut on Minu's face and asks how he got hurt, if it was from falling off the bike. She asks him to come inside the house so she can treat the wound, otherwise he'll have a scar. Minu, annoyed, asks her to keep her hands off him, leaving the mother astonished. The father reacts violently and slaps his own son's face, shouting crazily that he shouldn't talk to his mother like that. He looks stupid riding his bike with his punk friends. He's the eldest son. The servant and the woman try to calm him down, but Minu mentally breaks down, pouring out everything he has inside. He exclaims that he doesn't care about being the eldest son. He asks if his father really thinks that woman is with him because she likes him. She's only after his money because his biological mother is no longer with them. The angry father tells him he's shameless because he's using his money to buy bikes. He demands his card and wallet, claiming that he's paying for all of it. Minu throws his wallet on the floor and leaves, commenting that he doesn't need his money, and that he should be happy with a gold digger. The servant tries to hold him back and calm him down at all costs. Everyone starts shouting in anger, and the father tells him to never enter the house again. While the argument is happening, Yuna overhears everything from her room, blaming herself for the family being like this. Minu sits on a bench, checking his phone. He wanted to find a contact who could give him a place to sleep. He was sad and disappointed. With no money to his name and nowhere to go, expelled from his own team and his home. He questions why he has such bad luck and watches a family peacefully spending the night, talking about food, studies, and doing things together. Minu sees his own reflection in that family, remembering when everything was fine. A young Minu asked his dad if he could buy him a bike, and his father agreed, making it a reward for studying hard and having the best grades on the last exam. But he would only do it if Minu took care of Yuna and Yunmi. Minu's biological mother was very proud of him, and they planned to have a meal together when they returned home. Minu wondered how everything ended up like this and couldn't help but break into tears. While he cries on the bench, someone gets a drink from the vending machine next to him. Minu looks up and sees that it's Jay. The latter asks if he's crying because he lost. However, Minu maintains his pride and denies that he was crying. Jay decides to leave, but Minu quickly stops him and asks if he can stay the night with him. But the protagonist ignores him and starts walking away. Minu explains everything that happened, but Jay tells him it's his problem. Minu thinks that Jay has a heart that's too cold and begs him, saying it will only be for tonight. Jay mentions that he's going to go study and suggests he ask someone else. Minu confesses that he would like to, but he doesn't have anyone else to ask. Jay cruelly tells him that he's not someone he should be asking either and closes the door in his face. Minu sadly murmurs that maybe they're not close even at school. After a while, it starts to rain. Minu stares at the sky, letting the raindrops fall on his face, remembering that most of the people he met only wanted to be his friends because he was the son of the teaching group's president. They all admitted to using him to get closer to his father and benefit from it, either for money or to get a job. He had many trust issues because of this. He couldn't differentiate between a true friend and someone with ulterior motives. He felt that no one around him cared about him. He was only the son of a wealthy businessman to others. He could easily detect falsehood in people, and he admits that he also acts that way to deal with those kinds of people. His father always told him that the best way to live is through falsehood and lies because they are part of life. Since then, he has been the same, hiding his true personality and feelings, because every time he showed them, he was alone. when his father bought him the bike and remembers that it was a way for him to escape his loneliness. Awakening an interest in cycling, he founded a club, a group where only people who love cycling would be included, the Zephyrus team. But now, it's all over. He hears something nearby and sees that it's a cat. He notices that it has an injured paw, calms down, and decides to feed the cat. He thinks that maybe the cat couldn't get out of the way because it had an injured leg. He picks it up and starts playing with it in the rain. Meanwhile, Kei walks along the same street and sees him sitting in front of the house. He recognizes him and wonders why he's alone in the rain. Minu looks up and observes him. Kei notices the cat and approaches to play with it. Meanwhile, Jay regrets his decision and approaches the door. However, he sees his brother and then Minu. Kei comments that he will let him stay because he couldn't leave him stranded on the street in the middle of the rain. Minu is glad to know that at least Kei shows some concern, but he realizes that he was actually referring to the cat. Kei clarifies that he only brought Minu in because he had the cat, and then he goes to his room to treat the feline's wounds. The protagonist and Minu exchange glances. Minu tells him that he will leave as soon as the rain stops. Jay throws him a towel and points out where the bathroom is, giving him permission to take a shower. He can stay alone for tonight. Minu smiles faintly. Kei questions his brother's decision, not wanting a vagrant to stay overnight in the house, but he admits that he can't be a bad person if he took care of the cat. Later, Minu exits the bathroom feeling relaxed. He felt better after the shower, approaches the fridge, and announces that he will grab something to eat. At that moment, the protagonist's mother enters, inquiring about the bike outside. She looks at Minu, who greets her politely. The mother had brought some chicken to eat and allowed him to stay. Minu eats happily, and the mother asks if he happens to be the son of the Tichong group. She also wants to know how Jay knows him. The protagonist clarifies that they are not friends. Kei tells his mother that she always says friends are useless, but she silences him by making him eat chicken and sends him back to his room to study. She approaches him to whisper that he can't fail his next exam, so he shouldn't be sitting with them eating. The cat meows, and the lady gets alarmed, asking where the cat came from. Kei answers that Minu brought it and then takes the cat, whom he named Jack, and leaves. Both Jay and Minu give Kei strange looks for giving the cat a name so quickly. The mother asks Minu and Jay for their names, wanting to know if they've been involved in fights due to the injuries on their faces. Jay nervously drinks soda while Minu explains that they had a disagreement with some guys from another school. The annoyed lady demands the name of the school so she can go and deal with them herself, but Minu decides not to reveal TJ's identity, and simply says that they were wearing regular clothes. She asks him to let her know if he sees those guys again, as she will take them to the police to scare them a bit and leave them alone. Jay gets up to go to his room, thanking for the dinner, but his mother stops him, asking why his grades have been so low lately. She threatens to get rid of the bike if he continues like that. Minu remains silent, and Jay ignores her and locks himself in his room. The mother talks to our second protagonist, advising him that if he wants to inherit his father's company, he must study. After the conversation, Minu enters Jay's room and asks if he's watching the same video that Kang downloaded. Jay glances at Minu, and the latter jumps onto the bed, relieved to be on a bed. He takes advantage of the moment to be honest. He tells Jay that his life sucks too, feeling disappointed that not even being the top student can save him from having bad parents. But he admits that he envies how his mother scolds him to try to improve. Jay remains silent and turns off the light. He approaches his bed and asks Minu to give him some space, but Minu throws a pillow at him. Jay ends up sleeping on the floor. Minu stares at the ceiling and believes that Jay might be his first friend. He asks where Jay started racing, finding the protagonist's skills incredible. He recounts that when he was a child, he saw some guys riding and having fun, and he was fascinated by it. That's when he started riding on his own. He thinks that the guy he used to see riding probably became an insane racer. Then an idea comes to his mind. He gets up from the bed and asks Jay to create a cycling team. After all, they both love the same thing. Jay scolds him for talking nonsense and tells him to go to sleep. Minu acknowledges that that's just how Jay is and lies down, turning his back. He tells Jay to try to be positive at least once, revealing that he will stay for a couple of days. This scares Jay, and Minu explains that his mother allowed him to stay longer. Jay insults him for earning his mother's trust. Minu checks his phone and sees that Yuna sent him a message, asking where he is. Minu explains everything and asks her to bring his uniform and some clothes, giving her the location of the house. Yuna apologizes, and Minu asks why, but she decides to end the conversation and says goodnight. The next day, Minu wakes up and goes to the kitchen after smelling breakfast, but he is amazed to see that Jay is the one cooking. Jay explains that his mother left for work early. Minu can't help but laugh at the apron he's wearing and starts joking with him. Jay asks him to leave already and stop bothering him, but Minu decides to record it and keep it as a memory. He asks where Kay is, and Jay replies that he's in the yard with Jack. Minu looks at what he's cooking and is impressed by the great breakfast he made. Minu thought that breakfast was for him and felt touched, but he realizes that Jay just walks past him and tells him it's for the cat. Minu wants to know if there will be food for him, but Jay asks him to make his own breakfast. The two start arguing about the food, while Kay listens to them from the yard. We switch to a scene with a man adjusting his tie. He receives a call and answers it. The caller is his granddaughter Shelly, who informs him that she will visit Korea. Later, we find out the identity of the man. He is the director of Sunny himself. He is very happy and excited that his granddaughter is coming to visit him. Shelly hangs up, and the blonde woman looks out the window. She hasn't visited Korea in years, and there's a bicycle next to her. She is also a racer. Back to Minu, who is fixing his bike. He hears someone playing the trumpet outside and goes out to see who it is, finding Yuna. She had arrived and asks what he's doing. Minu replies that he was fixing his bike because it got wet yesterday. Yuna hands him his things and asks him to stop being stubborn and come back home. She will take care of their father, but Minu tells her no, he will do it. Yuna confesses that she's surprised he was able to stay at Jay's house. She questions him to see if Jay is treating him well. Minu admits that things just ended up that way, but it's fine, even if Jay is a bit grumpy. She offers to give him a ride to school, but he refuses and insists on riding his bike. He reminds her that she should already be on her way there. Yuna tells him that she will see him soon and advises him not to be late. Kai approaches Minu and asks if she's his girlfriend, while they both watch the car driving away. But Minu says that she's too ugly. He would never have a girlfriend like her. He also wants to know how long he has been standing there. Kay carries the cat, already imagining that a bum like him would have a girlfriend. Minu threatens him, saying that he would have beaten him up if he were his brother. The boy says goodbye to Jack and happily leaves. Jay comes out of the house, and Minu stops him, wanting to know if he'll go to school on his bike. He suggests going together as friends since he doesn't have money to pay for the bus. We see Minu and Jay on their bikes. Minu complains that the bike lane is quite neglected and it's difficult to ride on it. Our protagonists take a detour through the park. Minu enjoys the weather and thinks it's a perfect day to skip school and take a bike ride. Minu looks at Jay and asks where his helmet is, but Jay says he doesn't have one. Minu offers to get him one as a thank you for being good to him, but then he remembers that he doesn't have money to do so. Minu comes up with an idea and challenges Jay to a race to school. Jay refuses and says he'd rather race by himself. Minu complains that it's not fun that way. At school, Mia and Yuna chat. Yuna tells her everything that happened and Mia wants to know if Jay and Minu are really that close to be living together. Yuna says that they probably liked each other at some point, thinking that her brother might be gay. Mia scolds her, saying that someone might misunderstand if she says things lightly. Then they change the subject to the student council. Yuna suggests having the meeting at a cafe on the weekend. Mia likes the idea, but Jay will have the final say, and she's not sure if he would allow it. Yuna reveals that he can't refuse. All the heads of the council are women, so they just need to pressure him to give permission. But she will be the one to tell him in person. Mia agrees, and at that moment, Yuna confesses that she's doing it to help her. She wants to make sure that everyone else leaves them alone at the right moment. Yuna touches her head and asks her not to hold back like that. She sees Jay as a good guy, and if things work out between them, she'll owe her a favor. Kang overhears the whole conversation and interrupts, saying that he'll attend the meeting but wants to be invited. Yuna scolds him, reminding him that it's just a student council meeting and he's not part of it. Kang raises his hand and offers to be Yuna's personal assistant, but she takes it as a joke and tells him to go to sleep. Kang continues insisting and invites her to watch a movie after the meeting. A new zombie movie has been released, and he wants to watch it with her. Yuna refuses the invitation because she doesn't like zombie movies and tells him to go alone. Mia watches them happily, thinking that they make a good couple. Mia looks out the window and sees Minu and Jay on their bikes. She thinks that she will also get a bike to enjoy the pleasant weather. Yuna mentions that she can buy a bike and asks Jay to teach her how to ride. Kang interrupts, saying that he will also buy one, but Yuna doesn't care. In the school hallway, all the girls start greeting Minu. We see two boys looking at a women's magazine. Their classmate snatches the magazine from them and asks what they're doing at school. The boys complain about the magazine, believing it would be the key to solving both their love lives. The girl gets angry but just smiles and asks if it's a problem that she's doing her job as a class monitor. They get scared, and one of them notices that Minu left his bike inside the classroom. He approaches him to let him know that he can't bring bikes into the classroom, but Minu responds that the bike is too expensive to leave outside. The boy asks how much the bike costs, while their classmates fight over the magazine in the background. These two boys get alarmed after hearing the boy's exclamation. They can't believe the price of the bike and ask if it's made of gold because no one would pay that much for a bike. Minu thinks it's the only thing he has, maybe he could sell it and have some money to spend. The boy asks for permission to ride the bike for a while but realizes it's too tall for him. He runs off to his classmate to ask for milk, while Minu watches him with embarrassment. In classroom 2-1, Jay enters, and Yuna greets him. She talks to him about the student council meeting and informs him that everyone wants it to take place in a cafe to lighten the mood. Jay doesn't take it seriously. However, Yuna tells him that she will see him at the cafe for the meeting and then send him the address. She approaches Mia's seat and lets her know that Jay will be there, encouraging her to dress up for the occasion. Later, we see Mia in her room trying on various clothes from her closet. She looks at herself in the mirror and can't find anything that matches for the meeting. Her phone rings and she answers. Yuna asks if she's ready, as she's already at the cafe. Mia informs her that she will be there in a few minutes, hangs up, and panics. She doesn't know what clothes to wear and doesn't want to be late. We switch to a scene with Minu, who is looking out the window, enjoying the weather. It's the weekend, and he has nothing to do, no money, and no fun. He watches couples walking together in the early morning, but he finds Kay strange, who never leaves Jack alone for a moment. Minu realizes that Jay is getting dressed and asks what he's doing. Jay says he has a meeting with the council, but Minu finds it strange that it's on a weekend. He asks if he can accompany him because he's bored. Jay tells him no and leaves the house to get on his bike. Minu peeks out the door and tells Jay that he'll stay and take care of the house, but in return, he wants him to bring him an ice cream. Jay just looks at him in silence. At Cafe Bain, the council has gathered. A boy tells his classmate that she looks too beautiful while drinking coffee, like any girl from New York City. The others can't stand the situation and mutter among themselves that they should get a room. Kang is sitting next to Yuna, eating some pastries. She is annoyed with him for coming. At that moment, Mia arrives and greets them. They arrived earlier than expected. Kang asks who she is, and Yuna doesn't seem to recognize her without her glasses and with a different hairstyle. Mia smiles, and they finally recognize her, amazed by her new appearance. Yuna compliments her for looking beautiful and admits that she looks better without those glasses. She suggests that if Mia had taken them off earlier, Jay would have fallen for her. She feels happy because her friend looks great for the occasion. Kang stares at Mia in disbelief. Mia gets a bit nervous and mentions that she's wearing contact lenses. The boy from the student council was also surprised by Mia's change of style. He didn't imagine that the vice president could be so beautiful, and for him, it's good news. Suddenly, the girl he tried to hit on steps on his foot. She's upset and interrogates him about who he was looking at, but the boy, in pain, couldn't answer. Kang proposes to Yuna that they fight as if they were lovers, but she disgustedly refuses. Here we are introduced to Sun No, a student from Gun High School. He was accompanied by Vinnie, who was resting with a magazine covering his face. Sun complained about the noise the student council was making, and Vinnie was bored because there was nothing fun to do. Sun tells him to stop looking at the magazine and pay attention to the guys who are watching them. Vinnie looks at a group of people drinking coffee, and the girl with them winks at him. They start talking about Vinnie's eyes, which are different colors. The girl can't believe that the color red exists in eyes. One of them doesn't believe that he really has two eyes of the same color and thinks it's a contact lens. His friend agrees, saying that it could be part of a costume. The girl also criticizes Vinnie's appearance, mentioning that he probably likes to stand out because he dyes his hair red. Vinnie approaches them and takes a sip of one of their coffees. He gets annoyed by the taste, finding it too bitter for his liking. The three boys look at Vinnie in disbelief, and he asks them if the color of his eyes looks strange to them. He slightly opens his red eye and asks if they want him to pluck it out to prove that they are really that color. One of them asks him what his problem is and insults him by calling him a psychopath. This angers Vinnie, who kicks the table and lifts him up, attracting the attention of everyone in the cafe. The two boys quickly stand up, and the entire student council looks at the commotion, wondering who is fighting. The boys defend themselves against Vinnie, but he beats them up, knocking one of them down and placing his foot on his chest. "What? You want to hear more? You think I don't look funny because I don't look like you?" Vinnie says to the boy on the ground, smiling maliciously. He adds that he can't stand people like him and his friends who talk behind others' backs. He scolds him, saying that when he's in a cafe, he should shut up, finish his drink, and go home. After this, he starts pouring the beverage on the boy. The coffee was freshly made, and the boy complains about the burns. Vinnie continues interrogating him, wanting to know if talking about other people makes him feel superior. or if he likes it at all. The girl exclaims for someone to do something, while her companion is nervously watching everything. Vinnie gets fed up with them and tries to throw the cup at both of them until someone grabs his wrist, stopping him. He looks up and realizes it's Kang. The latter tells him that's enough, and that's how the first part of this manhwa ends. If you have reached this part of the video, let me tell you that you have been one of the few people to make it here. So comment the word wind in the comments. Remember to subscribe to not miss any videos. With that said, see you in the next video.